The first thing I did was swallow a stone whole, and in front of everyone, I forced the woman who loved me deeply to swallow a green pit viper alive. Everyone thought I was crazy, but what they didn't know was that in less than 1 minute, a global biological mutation would occur, and all humans would gain extraordinary abilities based on the food they consumed before the mutation. In the previous life, before the catastrophe struck, I ate lamb buns and thus awakened the wool-growing ability. Initially, this ability to consume mental energy to produce wool in harsh weather had some use. But as the mutated monsters grew stronger, I truly became a lamb to the slaughter. In this life, having been reborn, I am fully prepared. In my previous life, I once saw a giant dog with the power of Pengu, which was just a mutated mongrel kept by the owner of an antique shop in the south of the city. Out of curiosity and coincidence, I learned from the owner that the Mongol had accidentally swallowed a piece of jade while protecting him. After being reborn, the first thing I did was find the antique shop in the south of the city and scrape together enough to buy that piece of jade. As for why I forced 𝙎𝙗 to swallow her pet bamboo viper, it's because my deathmate 𝙎𝙗 actually likes me. In the previous life, when the mutation arrived, 𝙎𝙗 stayed by my side. She had awakened a snow and ice talent strong enough to protect herself and survive well in the post-mutation hell. Yet, she still followed me wholeheartedly, protecting me, someone with a useless talent. In the end, due to my burden, we both died suffering. Now reborn, I naturally want to help her awaken a stronger talent. In the previous life, 𝙎𝙗's pet bamboo viper was transformed into a flood dragon due to the mutation if it hadn't lost in a fight to the guard dog of the antique shop in the south of the city. It had a high chance of evolving into a 5-clawed divine dragon. The reason for requiring it to be swallowed alive is also based on the experience summarized by humans in the previous life, as swallowing alive yields the best effect for gaining abilities. If it weren't for the fact that the Dragonbane Jade couldn't be cut by human effort, I would have wanted to split it with 𝙎𝙗. Even a lesser dragon is several times stronger than the ice and snow talent 𝙎𝙗 awakened in her previous life. At this moment, faced with my insistence, 𝙎𝙗's expression is complex. On one side is the young man she has loved for several years, and on the other is her beloved pet. She is deeply conflicted. Looking at my determined attitude in front of her, 𝙎𝙗 made her mind. I'm sorry, little Ching. For him, I can do anything. 𝙎𝙗 grabbed the little green snake, pinched its head, and directly swallowed it like a sour noodle in front of the whole class. Seeing 𝙎𝙗 going crazy with me, the entire class was so shocked they couldn't say a word, only letting out astonished wow sounds. They felt like they were going crazy too, until 𝙎𝙗 rushed to the water dispenser and gulped down several cups of water. Leaning against the wall and retching continuously, the whole class finally reacted. Damn, 𝙎𝙗, you're serious. 𝙎𝙗, you're crazy. He told you to eat it, and you actually did. I must be dreaming. Why am I seeing something so outrageous? The teacher hasn't even recovered from the shock. He completely cannot understand the young people's thoughts. Amidst the commotion, I have already come to 𝙎𝙗's side. At this moment, 𝙎𝙗's fairy-like beautiful face is pale, with a few strands of hair stuck to her forehead from the sweat caused by pain, making her look extremely delicate and pitiful. With my face equally pale, I endure the pain in my abdomen and hold her in my arms. I did it. 𝙎𝙗 let out a painful groaner and wrapped her arms around my waist. I gently caressed 𝙎𝙗's pale face, and as she spoke, blood continuously flowed from the corner of her mouth. This scene frightened the teacher, who quickly called for emergency services. Meanwhile, 𝙎𝙗, who had been pursuing 𝙎𝙗 but was always rejected, felt his mind buzzing, and overwhelming anger nearly made him black out. Tall and strong, with years of training and a muscular build, he immediately stomped over with heavy steps. 𝙎𝙗, you deserve to die. You knew she liked you, yet you forced her to eat a snake. His angry shout was like a thunderclap, scaring all the classmates into a shiver while I didn't even glance at Ghana. At this moment, I was holding the increasingly weak 𝙎𝙗, took out my phone and looked at the time on the screen. 𝙎𝙗 pushed through the crowd and charged at me. 3. I held 𝙎𝙗 and softly counted down. Seeing 𝙎𝙗 approaching, my body remained motionless. 2. Seeing that tall figure about to reach me, many people instinctively held their breath. 1. As the time reached exactly 10, a burst of light containing immense energy exploded outside the window, so dazzling that it was almost impossible to keep one's eyes open. This scene lasted only a moment and quickly dissipated, while 𝙎𝙗, who was rushing over, fell heavily to the ground after being temporarily blinded by the flash. After the intense light appeared, an invisible electromagnetic storm would sweep through the entire solar system in just a few seconds. During this time, everyone instinctively looked out the window but saw nothing. Most people quickly snapped back to reality, feeling indifferent, while only a few started searching online for news, only to find their phones had no signal. 𝙎𝙤𝙧𝙧 also got up from the ground and angrily charged at me again. Today I must vent my anger on behalf of Wandro. His tone was filled with murderous intent. Junhao, who has been working out for years, has a muscular build that is very evident at 1m to 90. At this moment, all the classmates silently mourned for me in their hearts. Just as that massive fist was about to hit me, a sudden change occurred. The once bright sky turned from day to night in just a few breaths. A streak of blood-red light fell from the sky, and the solar storm caused a magnetic field disturbance, leading to a change in the sky's color. At the moment this anomaly occurred, 𝙎𝙤𝙧, in my arms, let out a heart-wrenching scream. Everyone instinctively looked over only to see 𝙎𝙤𝙧, who had ingested the bamboo viper with a deathly pale face and an already drastically changed appearance. A pair of dragon horns sprouted from her head, flickering with silver arcs with scattered blue-white scales around her pretty cheeks. From her spine to her shoulder blades, a small misty dragon intertwined and coiled. A long dress of blue and white scales emits a faint blue and white glow, tightly outlining her graceful figure. Behind her, a blue and white dragon tail gently sways, resembling a mythical beast saint from a TV drama. After the mutation, these pieces of information immediately appeared in 𝙎𝙤𝙧's mind. At this moment, the meticulous 𝙎𝙤 vaguely understood the intention behind my earlier action of having her consume it. It was entirely for her benefit. Already devoted to me, she naturally could not tolerate anyone daring to challenge me. She stood in front of me and effortlessly blocked 𝙎𝙤𝙧's large fist with just her palm. 𝙎𝙤𝙧's punch not only had no effect, but at the moment it hit 𝙎𝙤's palm. His hand was injured by the layer of 𝙎𝙩𝙧 divine armor covering 𝙎𝙤's arm scales. At this moment, 𝙎𝙤𝙧 screamed in pain, clutching his now charred and smoking right hand, enduring the intense pain and frantically searching for water to pour on his right hand. At this moment, 𝙎𝙤 rode even her feet. The fragments gradually disappeared beneath the skin, and the dragon horns on the head quickly retracted, returning to their original state. She wanted to look at me eagerly for praise, but at this moment, although I was clearly unchanged from before, 𝙎𝙤 distinctly felt a tremor touching her soul when facing me. It was the fear from deep within the genes of a small creature when confronting the heavens and earth. She vaguely had some guesses which were related to what I mentioned before about having consumed other things. 𝙎𝙤 didn't know what those things were, but the feeling of wanting to submit both body and mind made her love for me even deeper. She didn't know how I knew everything about the mutation, but she understood that I wouldn't harm her and that her current abilities were given by me. At this moment, a scarlet light burst in from outside the window, becoming even brighter, illuminating the night as if it were a fiery day. Almost simultaneously, 𝙎𝙤𝙧's scream abruptly stopped, and after a brief pause, the classroom was immediately filled with a chorus of screams. Many people unable to grasp the situation were affected by the eerie light and began to panic and scream in confusion, creating an extremely chaotic scene. At this moment, the crimson light faded, and a huge fish-shaped figure covered in blood and pierced with white bones appeared in the classroom. Underneath this figure were two blooded people. The others, upon seeing this, fell to the ground in fright, staring in horror at the two convulsing figures being crushed. The terrifying bloody figure seemed to be emitting chewing sounds. Among the rest of the crowd, there were several strange figures mixed in. Some were small like ghostly monkeys, some twisted like insects, and some swift like wolves. But they all shared a common feature. Their skin was made of turned-out flesh, appearing grotesque and terrifying like demons crawling out of hell. At this moment, they were all relentlessly pursuing the students in the classroom, wielding sharp blades and bearing fangs, tearing the students they caught in half on the spot and devouring them bloodily. What was once a slightly disordered classroom now unfolded a massacre indistinguishable from hell. Class monitor Youngye stared blankly at the scene, completely unable to understand what had happened, why the whole world had changed so drastically after the two flashes of light. What she didn't know was that those lights and the electromagnetic storm contained strange powers, and their combination led to the mutations. Only those with a sufficiently strong mind, able to resist the erosion of those strange forces, will awaken corresponding extraordinary abilities based on the residual foreign objects within them, known as mimetic divine sickness. 𝙎𝙤𝙧 was obviously not one with a strong enough mind. During his days, he couldn't resist the erosion of the strange power. The violent and bizarre energy quickly invaded every corner of his body. Writhing blood threads emerged from beneath his skin, continuously scratching and contracting on his skin. His normal skin was tightly constricted by countless tiny blood threads, causing blood to gush out. In just 2 or 3 seconds, 𝙎𝙤's figure shrank to nearly half its size. His whole body drenched in blood, completely unrecognizable as a human. And within a few breaths, he twisted into a shape impossible for a human to achieve, almost like a pretzel. After a violent distortion, slender and sharp aven claws grew from his feet, accompanied by an ear-piercing raptor screech. The mutated 𝙎𝙤𝙧 twisted and lunged at the girl in front of him, moving so fast that he almost left an after image. In an instant, he split a girl in half with his claws, frightening the nearby class monitor Zhang into retreating repeatedly. I watched the bird-like creature standing on the corpse howling. My pupils contracted slightly. That is the Blood Moon Demon Bird. But how did this mutated beast emerge from 𝙎𝙚𝙚𝙧𝙧? In my previous life, I avoided this bloody scene because I was absent from school on the day of the mutation. Reborn and living two lives, I naturally know about many types of monsters that appeared after the mutation. This bird-like monster transformed from 𝙎𝙚𝙧𝙧 is called the Blood Moon Demon Bird. Although it is only a first-tier monster, its speed is extremely fast and its sharp claws are as sharp as knives. In the early stages of the mutation, they were almost one of the most ferocious and deadly monsters. Even if humans in the early mutation stage survived the mutation phase and successfully activated their innate abilities, they still needed enough time to get familiar with them. Encountering the Blood Moon Demon Bird with its terrifying speed, they might be taken down before even having a chance to use their abilities. Unless those with top-tier talents can quickly grasp the situation, I can only survive by using my gifted abilities. Ordinary people encountering the Blood Moon Demon Bird are merely feeding the monster, especially in this dark environment where the light has faded, leaving only a faint crimson glow. The Blood Moon Demon Bird's characteristics are similar to those of an owl, making it even more adept in the dark. In my previous life, when I first awakened, my abilities were not well mastered, and I was driven out of the apartment building by neighbors who saw me as a monster. If 𝙎𝙚 hadn't come to find me immediately after the mutation and insisted on staying with me, I might have died outside. However, it was precisely because I stayed home that I avoided the Blood Moon Demon Bird. This also made me understand why almost no one from our class survived to leave the school. As thoughts flickered in my mind, I cautiously looked at the Blood Moon Demon Bird and immediately tried to awaken my innate bloodline. Then, my talent information instantly appeared in my mind. My eyes lit up at once. Blood Moon Demon Bird, you're just right for a test. I stopped my foot and golden light suddenly radiated from my body. A black gold flying fish mask covered my face with golden tassels swaying like flames behind my head. The shimmering black gold armor plates resembling dragon scales covered every part of my body, making my already tall figure appear even more powerful and imposing. On my back there was a swirling mix of blue and purple smoke, making me look like an invincible god of war. As soon as the mimicry armor was summoned, 𝙎𝙚 wrote beside me held her breath, eyes full of admiration. The monsters that my classmates had turned into seemed to be greatly provoked and leaped towards me. The closest one is that gigantic fish monster, its 3 to 4 meters tall body now restlessly eyeing me, clad in the mimicry armor. But when my gaze swept over it, it seemed to stir its lingering human memories, triggering its hidden fear. The huge, twisted, ugly monster became enraged and charged at me, roaring. Seeing this, 𝙎𝙚 was about to awaken the mimic to step forward, but I stopped her with a gesture. Then 𝙎𝙚 saw me stride towards the fish monster. In the blink of an eye, the two figures, one large and one small, collided, and a faint invisible shockwave exploded, creating a crack in the ground from our immense power. Even though I was wearing the mimicry battle llama and stood nearly 2 meters tall, I still seemed like a child in front of the nearly 4 meters tall giant fish monster. The size difference caused my body to tilt unavoidably due to the fractured ground, making it seem like I was somewhat lacking in strength. The Blood Moon Demon Bird transformed from 𝙎𝙚𝙧𝙧 was extremely cunning and thought the fish monster had the upper hand. It screeched and suddenly leaped towards the two battling sides. At this moment, I stepped back diagonally, simultaneously reversing my hand movement, switching from pushing to pulling, lifting the nearly 4 meters giant body of the fish monster and swinging it towards the Blood Moon Demon Bird that was pouncing over. The ugly giant body of the fish monster embedded into the wall, while the Blood Moon Demon Bird immediately began to screech angrily. It relied solely on its agility to catch its wings and leap over the crashing fish monster just before being pinned down. The Blood Moon Demon Bird flapped its enormous wings, its human-faced bird-like visage with eyes rotating as if in thought. It realized that its strength alone couldn't shake the human in black and gold armor. So, the Blood Moon Demon Bird began to call out incessantly. I understood it wasn't just an angry screech, but was using its bloodline suppressive power to rally all the incompletely transformed monsters present to attack me together. I saw the originally extremely weary monsters' flesh writhing on their bodies, their faces becoming more terrifying. While they emitted angry roars, several monsters simultaneously abandoned the flesh at their mouths and lunged at me. The Blood Moon Demon Bird quietly flew to the ceiling, attempting to launch a surprise attack. Seeing this, I made a grasping motion with my right hand, and the primordial purple energy behind me instantly transformed into a sharp giant axe shimmering with black and gold light. Facing the hideous monsters before me, I advanced instead of retreating, stomping the ground with a powerful step and charging towards the 4 monsters like a whirlwind. Twisting my body in midair, The giant axe in my hand spiraled like a dragon, and with a flash of the blade, the 4 mutated monsters were almost simultaneously sliced into 2. The blood moon bird above screeched and suddenly swooped down at me, intending to fight to the death. But at that moment, I grinned and swung the heaven-opening axe upward, amplifying a beam of light infinitely. The blood moon demon bird was directly cut in half by me. After I ended the blood moon demon bird, the entire classroom suddenly became quiet. My actions left the classmates present in awe, and the monsters present also sensed the powerful aura of Pangu's bloodline emanating from me. Each one stopping their actions to look at me. Without any hesitation, I leaped forward and swiftly attacked the other monsters. In 3 minutes, all the mutated beasts in the classroom were cleared out. It was at this moment that the survivors in the classroom started clamoring to leave. With a cold expression, I walked up to the... As soon as I spoke, the classroom instantly quieted down. The apocalypse has arrived and there are monsters everywhere outside. If you want to survive, listen to me. As soon as I finished speaking, a giant hellhound outside the door bared its fangs, sticking out its tongue as it looked at everyone inside the classroom, its deep growls echoing throughout. At this critical moment, a girl in the crowd raised her voice and shouted, causing the hellhound to become agitated. I frowned, my gaze fixed on the hellhound outside the classroom door. In my previous life, this hellhound evolved through rampant hunting at the school and eventually transformed into a 3-headed hellhound, becoming the overlord of Cloud City. If it weren't for the timely arrival of a Hyle Transcendent, the entire Cloud City would have become its prey. This time, I didn't plan to take action myself, but instead gave Xianro a look. Seeing my signal, Xianro gathered the dispelling divine thunder in her palm, and the phantom of a green-scaled long sword appeared. Caught off guard, a divine thunder struck the hellhound. As the dust settled, a charred patch appeared on the hellhound's body, truly worthy of being the dispelling divine thunder that specialized in countering evil in the past life. This time, the hellhound was completely enraged. Dragging its charred body, it opened its massive mouth and charged into the classroom with a roar, spewing black flames. The desks and chairs instantly turned to ashes, and the 2 people beside the desks were reduced to remnants. Seeing that the hellhound could withstand Xianro's divine lightning, I decided to take action myself. The mimic divine weapon, the heaven-opening axe, struck first, whistling as it smashed toward the hellhound, and I followed closely, charging at the hellhound. Although the hellhound swiftly dodged the attack of the heaven-opening axe, I followed closely like a wild bull and knocked the hellhound to the ground. Summer One-Row quickly handed me the weapon in her hand, and I gave the hellhound no chance to counterattack, directly slashing its throat. Then I walked to the hellhound's corpse, cut it open, and extracted a pure white crystal from its body. In the previous life, this kind of crystal was called a spirit crystal by the Extraordinary. As long as they absorbed a spirit crystal, the Extraordinary had a chance to advance in rank. This was the fastest and most stable way to advance. However, not all mutant beasts could produce crystals. Only a very few could generate low-grade spirit crystals from their bodies. The higher the quality of the spirit crystal within, the stronger the mutant beast's power. Thinking of how 𝙎𝙝𝙚 never abandoned me in life or death in my past life, and realizing that I have awakened the Pangu bloodline talent, I decided to give this spirit crystal to 𝙎𝙝𝙚. Hold it to the center of your forehead and absorb it with your mind. 𝙎𝙝𝙚 took the spirit crystal and followed my instructions without hesitation. As the light faded, the spirit crystal in her hand had disappeared, and she appeared more refreshed and ethereal. This was just the outward appearance. Her actual talent and ability had increased even more, reaching the level of a 2nd-level awakener. At the beginning of this global mutation, the strength of a 2nd-level awakener was already capable of handling most crises. I walked over to the girl who had screamed and attracted the hellhound, raised my knife, and a head rolled to the ground. I looked around fiercely. In the apocalypse, one truly has to pay for their stupidity. There were only a little over 10 people left alive on the scene. Sister Chen, we all listen to you now. Whatever you tell us to do, we will do. Just then, a miserable cry for help came from outside the classroom, mixed with the roars of strange beasts echoing outside. I knew that the school's strange beasts had already started to gather. I remember in my previous life, the school had too many students, and many of them mutated into beast monsters, forming a monstrous army, even though I have awakened the heaven-opening talisman. Now, I am powerless against thousands of beast monsters. I made a quick decision to close the classroom door. Don't just stand there, quickly move desks and chairs to block the windows and door. I shouted loudly to the people in the corner. After a brief hesitation, the survival instinct spurred a few people to quickly get up and block the doors and windows as I instructed. As the beast army approached, the class beauty Xiaowen recognized Shui, who was fleeing in front of the beast, as her roommate and best friend. At this moment, there was not a single intact spot on Xia's body outside the classroom, and her miserable appearance instantly flooded Xiao Chang'an with sympathy. Ah, In an instant, 𝙎𝙤𝙬𝙘 rushed to the classroom door, reaching out to push away the table, blocking it. At that moment, I came to her side and firmly grabbed her. "Do you want us all to die with her?" My cold voice echoed as a strong hand tightly gripped 𝙎𝙤's wrist. "Sister Chen, what do you mean? Xiaya is almost dying. I can't just stand by and do nothing." Seeing that I wouldn't let go, Xiaowen became angry and embarrassed. "Qinji, how could you be so cold and heartless?" The corners of my mouth tightened. "Fine, since you think I'm cold-hearted, go be a saint yourself." Saying this, I activated my mimicry armor, opened the door, and pushed out, then gently closed the door again. 𝙎𝙤𝙬𝙘 stood in the hallway, immediately frightened, and rushed back, frantically pounding on the door. "Sister Chen, I was wrong. I was just anxious for a moment. Please let me in." The mutated monsters in the hallway saw the crying Xian. Their pupils turned red and they showed a greedy look, then rushed forward. Meanwhile, everyone else in the classroom was silent, huddled in the corner, listening to the sounds of the beasts outside fighting over their prey, not daring to make a sound. I stood straight behind the door, my face tense. If any mutated monsters rushed in, I planned to fight to the death and at the very least escort Xian Ro out of the school. After the monsters finished devouring Xiaoyi's body, suddenly the hallway outside fell silent. What happened? Why did it suddenly get quiet? Could those monsters have already left? The classmates looked at each other, mistakenly thinking they had a chance to survive, but they all stayed in place, not daring to move, each one staring at me. From previous experiences, they knew that if they wanted to survive now, they had to rely on me. I stuck my head out of the small window on the door, and through the glass I could clearly see that 𝙎𝙤𝙬𝙘 had been completely devoured by the monsters, leaving only a pool of blood. At this moment, all those monsters were strangely crouching on the ground, trembling as if they were afraid of something. According to the normal course of events, after these monsters finished eating 𝙎𝙤𝙬𝙘, their next target should be those inside the classroom not staying in place. I was also puzzled because during the last apocalypse, I wasn't at school, so I am uncertain about what will happen next and even feel a sense of crisis. "Chen, what's happening outside?" Xianro asked, tightly gripping the long sword in her hand, ready to rush out and protect me at any moment. I turned to look at Xianro and shook my head. "We don't know yet. Let's not move and see what happens." Just as I finished speaking, there was movement outside the classroom with strange footsteps approaching step by step towards the classroom. Every time the footsteps move, it's as if they are knocking on everyone's heart. "Good students, come out and play. I've been waiting for you for a long time, and I'm willing to share something delicious with you." A girl's voice came from the corridor. This voice was somewhat eerie, making the hairs on the back of one's neck stand up. "This is Xiaolu's voice. Didn't she take a leave today?" "How is she back among the classmates?" Goshi said in a flustered tone, as if Joshu's appearance surprised her. "Why is she here? She won't turn into a monster like Gao Junha and come after us for revenge, right? If she's looking for someone, it should be Goshi, not me." The girls who used to share a dorm with Xiaolu whispered among themselves, looking flustered as if they had done something wrong to Xiaolu before. The classroom door was violently hit 3 times. I tightly gripped the pangu axe in my hand. No matter if Xiaolu is here for revenge or something else, if she dares to attack me or Xianru, I will not hesitate to chop off her head. "She's coming, she's coming." Gosh Xiaoli hugged her head with both hands, curling up in the corner of the classroom. "Open the door, my dear friend. Didn't you love playing with me? Why aren't you opening the door now?" "I'll show." Xiaolu giggled, but her voice was very eerie. The banging continued, and the next moment, the classroom door was suddenly forced open. A humanoid monster blocked the classroom door. "He see you." Zhao laughed playfully. Then all 8 legs moved simultaneously, and with a swift motion, he rushed into the classroom. After Zhao's mutation, his body size had increased several times, and as soon as he entered, he occupied more than half of the classroom. "Little dear, please forgive me." Gaosali already knew she couldn't escape her fate, so she directly knelt down before Xiaolu. "Forgive? Did you ever think about today? Asking me to forgive you now is truly laughable." Xiaolu's face showed madness, his body trembling continuously. He recalled that pain which had greatly agitated his mind. Now that he had the power to take revenge, he felt extremely excited. At this moment, one of Gaia's roommates stepped forward to add insult to injury, while retreating step by step towards the door. "You can't run away." Xiaolu's gaze turned cold, and with a bang, the door automatically closed shut. Seeing this, I couldn't help but feel surprised. Xiaolu must have mutated after eating a spider, but he can already use telekinesis to manipulate objects, which suggests he is close to the peak of the 1st tier. Xiaolu didn't notice my gaze. In a flash, he appeared in front of the girl trying to escape, slashed down with his sharp claws, splitting her body in two, and picked up a part to chew on. This bloody scene made many classmates feel nauseous on the spot. 𝙎𝙤𝙧𝙧, not knowing where she got the courage, picked up a table leg from the ground and rushed to 𝙎𝙩𝙬𝙧, hitting his pig leg with it. However, it was like hitting steel, causing no harm at all, and instead the table leg fell to the ground from the shock. 𝙎𝙩𝙬𝙧 sensed 𝙎𝙤's attack and with a laugh lifted her into the air. Then he slowly brought 𝙎𝙤 to his mouth, the powerful telekinesis holding her tightly, rendering her struggles futile. With one bite, 𝙎𝙩𝙬𝙧 bled profusely, her screams echoing throughout the classroom. After about 10 seconds, most of 𝙎𝙤's body was devoured by 𝙎𝙩𝙬𝙧. However, having avenged his great grudge, he didn't seem to intend to leave. Instead, he looked at me and 𝙎𝙯𝙧 with lingering interests. "You two look very tasty." 𝙎𝙩𝙬𝙧's mouth still had traces of bright red blood, and his fierce gaze turned towards me, and 𝙎𝙯 wrote, "The two of us are awakeners, and in 𝙎𝙩𝙧's eyes, we are nothing but a delicious feast." So after completing his revenge, 𝙎𝙩𝙧 immediately set his sights on me and 𝙎𝙯. I gripped the heaven-opening axe in my hand, ready to fight at any moment. If 𝙎𝙗 hadn't set his sights on us, I originally didn't plan to have a conflict with him. Before turning into a monster, 𝙎𝙩𝙬𝙧 was also a person with a hard life. But now he has set his sights on me. In this case, I have no choice but to chop off his head. 𝙎𝙩𝙬𝙧 laughed viciously, as if he didn't hear my voice at all. His fingernails extended into long, sharp claws, reaching towards my position. I let out a low grunt and swung the heaven-opening axe horizontally. The powerful force shook the entire classroom, and the air crackled. The axe struck directly against 𝙎𝙩𝙧's sharp claws, and sparks flew everywhere. Feeling the strong impact, 𝙎𝙩𝙧 quickly stepped back 2 paces. With his beloved claws injured, 𝙎𝙩𝙧 immediately fell into a frenzied state. "Everyone who harms me must die." 𝙎𝙩𝙧 raised his head and roared angrily, as if he had already regarded me as one of those who bullied him before. After his outburst, 𝙎𝙩𝙧 opened his gaping mouth, and a wave surged inside the dark cavity. Then thick white threads spewed out from his mouth, accompanied by patches of light green corrosive mucus. This was 𝙎𝙩's unique web attack after his mutation. The web formed a large net directly thrusting towards me. A golden glint flashed in my eyes, and the energy within me surged wildly. With such a wide-ranging attack, dodging in this narrow space was nearly impossible. It was a perfect opportunity to test my awakened talent. Yellow golden light quickly rose from my body and soon wrapped around the heaven-opening axe in my hand. I raised the heaven-opening axe in my hand towards the sky, and the surrounding space began to tremble. The entire floor seemed to quake as if in an earthquake. The tables in the room shook continuously, and the windows around shattered one after another. Just as the spider silk was about to envelop me completely, I swung the axe down, and the heaven-opening axe emitted a tremendous power, striking directly onto the spider web. Even the spider silk, as thick as a thigh, was sliced like a cucumber by the heaven-opening axe, shattering the web in an instant, unable to block it at all. After cutting through the web, the heaven-opening axe struck directly on 𝙎𝙩𝙧, splitting his body in half from the shoulder, with countless streams of blood gushing out. 𝙎𝙩𝙧 let out a chilling scream. Severely injured, a shadow of transformation appeared in his mind, and waves of mental fluctuations transmitted from his brain. The ordinary students present all covered heads, struggling in pain on the ground. Facing it head-on, I was hit and momentarily stunned. It was my first encounter with a mental attack, and the monsters outside, affected by 𝙎𝙩's mental fluctuations, rushed in like mad, eager to tear me apart. "You are not allowed to harm 𝙎𝙗." 𝙎𝙗 saw the monsters charging at me. Her gaze turned cold, and she swung the azure-scaled long sword in her hand. Sparks of thunder burst from the sword, swirling around it. Before the monsters could get close, 𝙎𝙗 had already transformed into a phantom and dashed out. A divine thunder roared into action, with bolts of lightning as large as pythons surging towards the monsters. After absorbing a crystal core, 𝙎𝙗 was noticeably stronger than before. The accompanying lightning alone directly blasted 4 or 5 monsters to death, and then her sword swept through, killing a large number directly. These monsters were like chopping vegetables in front of her. After flashes of lightning, the monsters in the corridor were cleared by 𝙎𝙗. She absolutely would not allow these things that could potentially cause me trouble to exist. "Chang'ai, you are completely under my control now. You can't escape." 𝙎𝙩𝙧, already severely injured, somehow found the strength to claw at me. "Do you really think you can control me?" And I, who was originally stunned, suddenly jolted with 2 streams of mysterious yellow energy bursting out from my body. This is my other talent. The ability to separate the impure from the pure, if it weren't for the fact that I am still in the talent trial stage. Her mental control probably doesn't even qualify to touch me. As soon as the 𝙎𝙚𝙚𝙧𝙧 emerged, I immediately regained clarity, and my eyes became even brighter than before. How is it possible? My mind control is the strongest among those with the same mutation. How could you possibly break it? Juelu looked incredulous due to her deep resentment. She was indeed of a mid to high level among monsters with mental powers in the early stages. A typical awakened person hid directly my sleep for a long time, but I dispelled it in just a moment, which shocked her. I smiled slightly without much explanation. A surge of power was injected into the heaven-opening axe, and as I bent my knee, a yellow lightning flashed by. In an instant, 𝙎𝙠𝙬𝙧, who was already half gone, turned into a rain of blood, with pieces of flesh scattering inside the classroom. Shenji, did you kill her? 𝙎𝙠𝙬𝙧 has mental attacks. You're really strong. Many of the students present regained their senses. In this monster-filled apocalypse, they have no awakening abilities, so they immediately sided with Shanru and me. If Xiaowenru and I still consider our classmates, they might still have a chance to survive. After the blood rain fell, a white crystal appeared where 𝙎𝙠𝙬𝙧 was, likely another one that can enhance strength. At the same time, 2 strands of black energy swirled in the space, which should be the resentment 𝙎𝙠𝙬𝙧 had in life. Why? Why? I hate you. I curse you to hell. After the sound stopped, the 2 black mists rushed out through the window and then dissipated from this world. I withdrew the heaven-opening axe in my hand and sighed lightly. Miss, are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? Xianru nervously held my hand and checked around. Just now, when I was controlled and about to be caught by 𝙎𝙠𝙬𝙧, her heart was in her throat. It's okay. I gently patted Xianru's head. This girl still cares about me, just like in the previous life. After comforting Xianru, I retrieved the crystal left behind by killing 𝙎𝙠𝙬𝙧. This crystal was white with a hint of red light inside. It should be a low-level spirit crystal. I think this low-level spirit crystal can help me improve. I held it in my hand, and with a thought, I began to absorb it. Instantly, a white light penetrated into my body, and I felt completely refreshed, as if every cell in my body was breathing. My aura significantly strengthened, as expected of a beginner-level crystal. It immediately elevated me to the peak of a second-tier awakened being because of my innate chaos Shan Huang body. The enhancement from absorbing the crystal was much stronger than for others. Absorbing a primary crystal in the early stages of the apocalypse, an average person might only advance to a second-tier beginner awakener, but I directly advanced to the second-tier peak. Shall we? What should we do next? Xiaowenru glanced at the bloodstained surroundings and asked, holding my arm. This kind of terrifying and eerie situation is also the first time I've encountered it, and I have no plan for the next step in my mind. We have already awakened, and the next thing to do is to continue improving. In the apocalypse, while awakened ones have abilities, they are also the food that monsters covet. As the apocalypse progresses, monsters will continue to prey on humans and each other, constantly evolving, and the monsters we encounter will only get stronger. In order to survive, we must continuously improve. My eyes gleamed. Listening to my words, Xiaowenru seemed thoughtful. She didn't quite understand how to improve. She just wanted to stay by my side and eliminate any threats to me. The bloody scent after 𝙎𝙠𝙬𝙧's death attracted the attention of the monsters in the school. The flesh and blood of a higher-level monster like her is a rare delicacy for other monsters. So after smelling the blood, they all started to gather towards the classroom where I was. I took Xianru's hand, ready to leave. Chenji, take me with you. My dad is a director at Guangao Group. I can guarantee you wealth and prosperity. You can have as much money as you want. At this moment, the rich second-generation Wang Tian stood up. Wang Yan's family indeed has considerable assets, and he usually comes to school in a Mercedes S-Class. However, in the eyes of these rich young masters, money is everything. It's amusing. It's already the apocalypse. Do you think money still has any use? I chuckled, thinking how naive Hang Yan is. Seeing my attitude, the usually domineering Hang Yan couldn't swallow his anger. Chen Jia, you poor thing. Your parents passed away early and you worked odd jobs to get through school. Before Huang Tian could finish speaking, my expression turned cold, scaring him into silence. Tired of living, I said, I'll send you on your way. I grabbed Hong Jin's shoulder and gently pushed him to the ground. In the next second, he lay there unconscious, completely lifeless. The classmates nearby, witnessing this scene, backed away in fear, looking at me in terror. Now, killing them would be as easy as crushing an ant. After dealing with Hong Tian, Chen took Xianru and walked out of the classroom door. What do we do now that they've left? We can't. We must survive. Let's follow Chenny. That way we can survive. After a brief discussion, the classmates took a few table legs, brooms, and the like from the classroom and followed behind me. Noticing the classmates following, I didn't drive them away. Firstly, they are old classmates, so I let them follow as long as they don't hold us back. Secondly, having so many people would surely attract a lot of monsters, and I could use these classmates to kill monsters and level up. After dealing with a few monsters in the classroom hallway, I arrived at the school's convenience store to get the edible food inside, packed everything into the backpack. Other classmates also knew how to collect supplies, but only dared to take what I didn't want. I only left after filling 2 large bags from the convenience store. Lin Chu, the former sports committee member, flatteringly ran up to me at this moment. "Brother Chen, look at how strong I am. Let me carry the stuff. You and sister-in-law just focus on walking." Ling Gu nodded and bowled, his face full of desire. Seeing him like this, I gave him the stuff anyway, but if he dares to have the slightest selfish thought, I will immediately eliminate him. The people from Class 3 put down the supplies. As soon as I left the convenience store, I was surrounded by a group of people. I took a closer look and saw that it was 𝙎𝙎, the class monitor of Class 6. This 𝙎𝙎 had always been arrogant and was known as a notorious bully at school. "You sensible ones, hurry up and put the things down. Our boss has awakened superpowers." Not long ago, 𝙎𝙚 successfully awakened his talent, helping many people in Class 6 escape. And at the same time, he gathered the surviving classmates from Class 6 as his followers. At this moment, Lin Chu, carrying 2 large bags of food, turned to look at me. Without my instructions, he didn't dare to just hand over the supplies to the other side. "You people from Class 6 are really used to being arrogant. I collected these myself. Why should I give them to you?" I frowned, usually most displeased with people like Zhao who bully the weak. Zhao's face turned angry and he clenched his fists. Suddenly, 2 huge wings appeared behind him with white spots showing on them. It seems that Xiao must have swallowed a 7-star ladybug before the apocalypse, which caused this change. The wings behind Xiao shook violently and he charged at me like a meteor. I gave a slight shake of my hand and the heaven-opening axe appeared in my hand, surrounded by a majestic mystical aura. "I have leveled up to level 2. Let me show you my strength." 𝙎𝙚 shouted loudly, speaking proudly while the muscles on his body began to writhe and slowly contract, appearing even more powerful. I stared intently at 𝙎𝙎, not panicking at all, gripping the heaven-opening axe tightly. A cold gleam flashed, aiming straight for 𝙎𝙎's face. The heaven-opening axe struck 𝙎𝙎's iron hand, and unable to withstand the force, 𝙎𝙎 staggered back, pretending to stand firm. "Go, boss, knock this Chenny down," 𝙎𝙎's underlings shouted loudly, but they didn't know how much pressure Xiao was under. Just in the first clash, 𝙎𝙎 felt like his iron fist was hitting a massive mountain. Unable to move it, 𝙎𝙎 was forced back by my heaven-opening axe, his hands trembling slightly. It was too late for him to admit defeat now. If he did, he wouldn't be able to get by in the future. 𝙎𝙎's face tensed, and he shouted fiercely, trying to bolster his own courage. His iron-like fists came at me once more. "How dare you hurt Xiaojai!" Before I could make a move, Xianro charged out from the side, her body covered in scales and her long sword crackling with lightning, pointing directly at 𝙎𝙬. 𝙎𝙬 felt a massive surge of energy coming at him, breaking out in a cold sweat, and could only place his hands in front to barely defend. Xianro's long sword struck 𝙎𝙬's steel hands with a fierce attack, accompanied by lightning, directly scorching 𝙎𝙬's hands red. "You two teaming up as a couple is truly shameless." 𝙎𝙬's underling felt it was unfair, but after being glared at by Xiao, he could only hide behind Xiao. "1, you step back and rest. Leave the rest to me." I stood in front of Xiao, just wanting to test how powerful my talent is. After upgrading to the 2nd-tier peak, Xianro called out worriedly. Seeing me standing so firmly in front, she said no more. She was willing to protect me, but whatever I wanted to do, she certainly wouldn't interfere. Since I wanted to face it alone, she stood behind and observed carefully. "Don't think you've won for sure. After I kill you, I'll deal with the girl behind you." Even after being repelled twice, Xiao remained confident. The soft wings behind him fluttered violently as Xiao increased his speed to the maximum, crashing towards me. With the talent of a 7-star ladybug, his body's hardness was like diamond. Xiao didn't believe that my broken axe could break through his defense. As long as I couldn't break his defense, he could find an opportunity to crush me. I shouted loudly and raised the heaven-opening axe in my hand. As the level increased after using the heaven-opening axe, it felt as if there was a massive energy supporting me, and a layer of illusory energy membrane appeared. The heaven-opening axe struck 𝙎𝙎 squarely, and waves of strong energy continuously spread around, stirring up gusts of wind. Moments later, the hard wings on 𝙎𝙎's body shattered into pieces, scattering in the air. 𝙎𝙬's defense was broken. He had specifically focused on defense talents, yet he couldn't withstand my strike. After losing his only means of reliance, 𝙎𝙎's body became extremely fragile. Then the heaven-opening axe struck down vertically, successfully severing one of 𝙎𝙎's arms, spilling blood all over the ground. 𝙎𝙎's followers behind him. Some continued to support him, while others were ready to submit to me. "Chenji, I lost. Please be generous and let me go." 𝙎𝙚 clutched his wound in pain and begged me for mercy. As long as he could survive, he was willing to give up all dignity. I still preferred your defiant attitude just now. Holding the heaven-opening axe, I approached Xiao step by step. Sparing him was impossible. Leaving enemies behind in the apocalypse is not a good habit. As I got closer, the expression on Xiao's face became extremely terrified. If you dare touch me, you're dead. My brother is with the King Long Gang, Xiao screamed hoarsely, but my heaven-opening axe had no ears to hear, and with a gentle sweep, he severed Xiao's head. The followers of Zhao were all dumbfounded, staring in disbelief at the scene before them. Their leader, whom they relied on, was slain with a single strike. However, they were just students and not as loyal to Xiao as imagined. In this cannibalistic apocalypse, it didn't matter who they followed. So, a group of 5 or 6 people immediately knelt down before me. Boss Chen, we were previously misled by Dahu, but now that guy is dead. We'll follow you. Please take us in. These students, in order to survive, used all the cleverness they had learned. I didn't say much, just nodded. I don't really care if they follow me or not. As long as they are willing to follow, they can follow freely. It would be best if they could attract more monsters for me. If things stabilize later, it might not be impossible to use them to form my own force. One quick-witted student, seeing my reaction, repeatedly thanked me and then sheepishly ran to the back of the original Class 3 students. Behind me, the others also followed. Just like that, I gained 5 or 6 more followers. After killing Xiao, I went forward to prod his corpse. As expected, the spirit crystal on such an awakened person was only of low quality. However, even a small amount of fly meat is still meat. I picked up the spirit crystal and with a thought absorbed it into my body. Unfortunately, the energy it provided was negligible, barely enough to cause a slight fluctuation in his second-tier peak state. You newcomers, you have 3 minutes to gather supplies from the convenience store. Next, the target is to head to the city hospital. I pointed to the convenience store behind me and said coldly, if I remember correctly, there will be an early-stage boss at the city hospital. To quickly enhance one's strength, one must continuously challenge stronger monsters. As for this group of people, having them around is good for attracting monsters on the road. To deal with an early-stage boss, even with a high awakening talent, you need about 3rd-tier strength. After thanking me, the new students quickly rushed into the convenience store and started a zero-cost shopping spree like hungry wolves. 3 minutes later, I led this small group on the road to the city hospital. At this time, there was only a red blood moon hanging in the sky, but the light was still enough for humans to see the scenery outside. The highway was already in chaos with various broken vehicles clogging the road. Occasionally, a few monsters could be seen chasing humans, but they were all ordinary monsters, so I didn't intervene. In the apocalypse, meddling has never been a good habit. The tall buildings along the roadside were flashing broadcasts. The appearance of the deformed monsters quickly alerted the high officials of the Dragon Country, who immediately responded by researching the monsters and warning the public. Unfortunately, I know that by the time a method to suppress the deformed monsters is found, most humans would already be dead. However, these are not my concerns for now. As the apocalypse progresses, survival will become increasingly difficult. Only those who continuously push themselves to the extreme will have the right to survive and might even achieve the legendary immortality through this grotesque mutation. I led the team down the street towards the city hospital. After walking for a while, I heard a shout. Turning my head, I saw a small car emitting thick smoke pressing down on a young man wearing glasses. This man's face was twisted in extreme terror, and upon seeing everyone, he desperately called for help. Our group looked at each other, none daring to move. In the past, the more enthusiastic among them would have already offered help, but now it's the apocalypse, and a warm heart won't save them. Listening to me is their only chance. However, I just coldly watched the man act. Aren't you students? Why are you so indifferent? The man's face, originally in pain and struggling, changed dramatically and he roared at us. Then his body began to mutate. His once normal eyes turned fierce and eventually blood red. His normal hands started to grow eerie. Blue-green scales, claws slowly emerged from his fingers and his head finally transformed into a terrifying lizard head. This was a lizard monster mutating towards a lizard form just by sensing its aura. I felt it was much stronger than 𝙎𝙚𝙚 before. So many students, I can finally have a feast. The lizard monster looked at everyone greedily, emitting a chilling laugh as if it could devour everyone present one by one in the next second. Brother Chen, why did he only mutate now? Why was he still in a normal human state just now? Lin Shu, carrying her luggage, asked curiously. Having followed me, she was much calmer in such situations than others. This should be the lizard monster's own talent, I replied indifferently. I guess that this lizard monster should be able to mimic humans and change into whatever form it wants. This talent might be useful for ambushes, but in direct combat it doesn't have any advantage. Seeing us still calmly discussing our talents, the lizard monster seemed provoked, feeling insulted that this group of people wasn't afraid of it, even though it was a second-tier peak monster. Obediently become my meal. The lizard monster's expression was fierce, and with a sweep of its right hand, it knocked a nearby vehicle flying. Then its claws dug into the ground as it approached us at great speed. It first targeted the delicate and tender Xianro, as such a beauty would taste the best. Xiao Wanro sensed the lizard monster coming at her and shouted angrily, Xiaowanro summoned the mimic spirit. What a ruthless girl. I'll enjoy you slowly later. As it spoke, its dark green tail swept towards Xianro before the lizard monster's attack could touch Xiaowan. A flash of lightning occurred and Xiaowan disappeared from her original spot. The massive lizard tail smashed into a nearby jeep, instantly shattering the vehicle into pieces. Even though Xiaowanro had just awakened her abilities after the battles at school, her reactions were now extremely quick. Ugly monster, you're finished. Xiaowanro raised her long sword to the sky. As soon as she finished speaking, the mimic spirit called Xiao by Xiaowanro trembled all over, transformed into a flash of lightning and tightly entangled the lizard monster. What a despicable woman. Let me go. The lizard monster bared its teeth, struggling continuously. But having reached the second tier and being an A+ level mimic spirit, how could it be easily escaped by a mere lizard monster? Xianro activated her talent skill, the azure sky divine thunder, and a dense barrage of lightning descended from the sky, connecting to the tip of her sword. Then with a flick of her wrist, Xiaowanro thrust the sword, carrying the terrifying heavenly thunder towards the lizard monster. The lizard monster widened its eyes in fear, watching the impending thunder. During its time lurking in this area, it had encountered awakened ones before, but it had easily dealt with and devoured them. But it had never encountered someone as formidable as Xiaowanro who could actually summon heavenly thunder. Xiaowanro saw the lizard monster's fear from above. The corners of the mouth voluntarily curvature. This is all thanks to Brother Chenny giving me bamboo leaf green before the apocalypse arrived. The long sword then struck heavily on the lizard monster. An intense white light emanated between the sword and the... Moments later, the white light dissipated. Xiaowanro tightly gripped the long sword with her jade-like fingers, staring straight ahead. The lizard monster bent over, panting heavily. After taking Xiaowanro's blow, blood seeped from the scales on his body. For a moment, he felt as if all his scales were about to be peeled off. But fortunately, he possessed the awakened talent of the red flame lizard armor. The red flame lizard armor can greatly enhance the defense of the scales in a short time. Plus, the lizard monster, relying on this location to eat people, has already reached the peak of the second tier, making it not so easy to kill. Damn it. How dare you hurt me? Before I mutated, I was oppressed by my boss every day, and now I've become a monster, neither human nor ghost, and still get defeated. I'm not willing to accept this. You all can die. The lizard monster fell into a frenzy, its facial muscles becoming extremely ferocious with a deep black resentment swirling around its body. Its muscles also began to swell due to this frenzy. In just a few seconds, the lizard monster grew larger than before. Its blood-red eyes filled with hatred as it looked at Xiaowan. Is this lizard monster crazy? Can 𝙎𝙚 still be its match? Didn't you see a great shark can use heavenly thunder? Defeating this little lizard is not that simple. The little brothers were full of confidence in Xianro. Only I could see that after the previous strike, Xianro didn't have much strength left. Her combat experience was still too lacking, and she used her strongest move all at once. Originally, she thought she could kill in one move, but unexpectedly the opponent's level was several notches higher than hers and also had a defensive talent. This strike not only failed to kill the opponent, but also put herself in a passive position. Hey girl, you look exhausted, now it's my turn. The lizard monster possesses an abnormal recovery ability, regaining half its strength after just a brief rest. Xianro did not show weakness, reactivating her ability to manipulate clouds and rain. A white cloud formed under her feet, lifting her straight up and propelling her rapidly towards the lizard monster. This attack was noticeably weaker than before. Do you still think you're a match for me now? I'm at the peak of the second tier. The lizard monster snorted coldly, leaping forward with both feet at an extremely fast speed. And in an instant, it flashed in front of Xiaowanro. Seeing the claws about to reach her, Xiaowanro had no choice but to block with her sword. Xiaowan was forcibly knocked back, sliding a good distance on the ground before barely stopping. Seeing Xiaowanro unable to resist the lizard monster, I shouted excitedly and charged towards Xiaowan. My strong voice rang out and the heaven-opening axe flew out, directly cutting into the lizard monster's path. I have been observing the battle, intending to give Xiaowanro a chance for real combat. Now that Xiaowan is at a disadvantage, I have no choice but to intervene. You brat! You dare to stop me! Be careful or I'll tear you to pieces with one claw, the lizard monster roared angrily. Seeing that there wasn't a strong energy fluctuation for me, it assumed I was just an ordinary awakened one. I responded softly, and then a mysterious yellow aura rose surrounding my body, with the aura climbing step by step. The lizard monster sensed that my aura was similar to its own and couldn't help but feel alarmed. I wielded the heaven-opening axe, quickly approaching the lizard monster, and without a word, swung the axe down on its head. The powerful energy wave suppressed the lizard monster, rendering it. As the lizard monster roared, it activated its innate ability, Red Flame Lizard Armor, once again. Unfortunately, my innate ability is S level, and my rank has reached the peak of the second tier. The power of this axe strike is much stronger than Xiaowen's thunderous blow. The axe swiftly descended, and with each inch it fell, the lizard monster felt an intense threat of death. When the axe finally touched its body, it felt as if every cell was being crushed by the axe's power. Even though its scales shone with golden light, they only held for a brief moment. The sharp axe instantly sliced through the lizard monster's body, and with a scream it was split in two. Immediately after, a purple light orb jumped out from the lizard monster's corpse. I recognized this type of energy mass. It's a treasure for enhancing mimicry possession. I pointed lightly at the purple energy mass in front, and a mysterious yellow aura shot out from it. The primordial green turbid energy, upon seeing the purple energy mass, excitedly rushed over and swiftly enveloped it. In no time, the energy mass vanished without a trace, completely consumed by the primordial green turbid energy. After the consumption, the aura of the primordial green turbid energy grew stronger, and some of the energy was fed back to me. Moreover, what's even stranger is that I feel like there's something new on my body. I clenched my fist, and with a thought, a thin layer of scales suddenly grew on my body, emitting a faint yellow glow. This is the lizard monster's defensive ability. I was secretly amazed. This primordial energy not only feeds back energy, but even the opponent's abilities. After gaining a new ability, I was overjoyed. Generally, each person can only have the talent they awaken with, but my mimicry spirit can acquire new talents for it, which means I have an additional method in future battles. The boss is amazing. With just one axe swing, this ugly creature was dealt with. The boss is mighty. Can you leave the corpse of this lizard monster for us? I can make a lizard barbecue. These classmates start praising me as soon as they get the chance. They understand the current situation well. There are man-eating monsters everywhere, and a slight carelessness could lead to being crushed by other awakened ones. Their only hope for survival is me. In fact, in the apocalypse, humans can gain some benefits by eating the bodies of some monsters, and their physique will be stronger than ordinary people. However, I am resistant to these monsters and do not intend to consume them. Linshu took the lead, pulling out a small knife from somewhere, and eagerly ran to the lizard monster, starting to dissect its body. Even when facing the fierce lizard monster, he didn't show much fear. In just a few minutes, he finished dissecting the lizard monster and categorized the different meats. By this time, the sky was gradually getting darker and the surrounding light began to dim. I randomly found a hotel, cleared out some ordinary monsters inside, and was able to move in. I stayed at second floor. Other students, for their own safety, preferred to lie outside the corridor on the second floor rather than run to other floors. Just after moving into the room, I heard the sound of firearms outside the window. Pulling back the curtain and looking into the distance, I saw an armed squad continuously firing machine guns at the monsters charging at them. The armed squad was shooting while retreating towards this hotel. "Boss, there are too many of these monsters. We must find cover or we'll be worn down by them. Retreat backwards, keep fighting, don't stop, there's a hotel behind. Hold this place and look for a chance to break through." These people roared amidst the gunfire, advancing towards the hotel where I was. I watched them from the room, frowning. These people were leading the deformed monsters in my direction, which would cause me quite a bit of trouble. The burly man leading them took out 2 grenades, bit off the safety pins, and with a swift motion threw the grenades into the group of monsters. The grenades emitted a huge roar, and it was precisely because of this roar that the monsters originally attacking frantically paused for a moment. Taking advantage of this brief moment, the 8-member team pushed open the inn's door and rushed in. Some of them set up machine guns at the inn's 2 windows, continuing to fire at the group of monsters. Many students, out of curiosity, leaned out from the second floor to watch. A scarred member of the armed squad immediately noticed my classmates, and several of them quickly pulled back, but they had already been spotted. The leading man, stout guy next to him, while he continued to hold off the monsters. The short, stout guy, called La, received the order and rushed towards the second floor with his submachine gun. As soon as he reached the second floor, he immediately noticed the students huddled around my room. Seeing a few not-so-attractive female classmates inside, he suddenly felt lustful. There are still so many students. This is exactly what we brothers want. The short, chubby man licked his lips and aimed his gun at these students. These students had never seen a real gun before and were terrified, quickly retreating towards my room door. The short, chubby man curiously looked at my room door, guessing that there might be even more interesting characters inside. The short, fat man brandished his gun to scare away a few students. He kicked the door hard a few times, and when there was no response, he fired 2 shots at the door knob, then forcefully pushed the door open. As soon as the door opened, he saw me standing in front of him holding 𝙎𝙝𝙚 in my arms. 𝙎𝙚 had fair skin and a beautiful appearance, which immediately captivated the short, chubby man. He was visibly excited and raised his gun, aiming it at me. In his eyes, I was just an unarmed student who might be scared to the point of wetting myself with just a little intimidation. I hate it the most when someone points a gun at me in my life. I glared at the short, fat man. In my previous life, I was forced to do many things at gunpoint, and his actions made me very uncomfortable. Pointing a gun at me, so what? Did I tell you to let go of that girl? Are you deaf? Now she's mine. The short, fat man had a mocking expression, thinking that having a gun made him a king. I didn't want to see him anymore. I whispered something softly beside 𝙎𝙚, then released the hand that was holding her. Seeing me let go of 𝙎𝙚, the short, fat man became excited. Consider yourself smart, little beauty. Stick with me and I'll help you survive in this apocalypse. 𝙎𝙚's face was icy, completely ignoring what the short, fat man was saying. Scales reappeared on her body, and streaks of lightning emanated from her, then transformed into a bolt of lightning that shot out. The task I gave her was to kill the man in front of her. A flash of lightning passed, and before the short, fat man could react, he felt a chill at his throat and fell to the ground with a thud. However, 𝙎𝙚 did not stop there. She used 2 bolts of lightning to lift the short, fat man's body and then walked towards the second-floor window. The 7-member team originally defending against the monsters was stunned by 𝙎𝙚's beauty. But the next second they saw the short, fat man's head and immediately cursed the lightning. "Old 8! You killed our old 8!" the squad leader roared, his eyes almost spitting fire while also aiming the gun at 𝙎𝙚. "This ugly guy upset my little Jai! He deserves to die!" Then with a wave of her hand she threw the short, fat man's body in front of the squad leader. Seeing his subordinate's corpse, the squad leader trembled with rage and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang, bang, bang. Lines of fire shot towards 𝙎𝙚's position. Unfortunately, these ordinary firearms seemed too weak to 𝙎𝙚. She just lightly twisted her body and easily dodged all the bullets. Damn, she's an awakened monster. "Boss, let's retreat quickly." Unfortunately, the big brother was in a rage and couldn't listen, the gun in his hand still firing continuous. Michelle Wandro's cold voice echoed on the first floor of the inn as if announcing a death sentence for the squad leader. Then the green-scaled longsword in her hand flashed, and the next second a bolt of lightning appeared on the squad leader. The squad leader let out a miserable scream, immediately fell to the ground, twitched a few times, and soon fell silent. Next were his underlings. One by one, their lives were taken by 𝙎𝙚. The original 𝙎𝙚 was not this ruthless. After just 1 day of my oral instruction, she has already become so adept. In the apocalypse, being merciful to the enemy is the greatest cruelty to oneself. When she killed the last minion, a golden light suddenly emerged from her body, and pieces of armor appeared out of thin air, assembling onto her. I awakened the super armor. Gang has his day too. After merging with the armor, Jing's face showed joy. 𝙎𝙚 looked serious, staring intently at Gowing. Now Gang was covered in golden armor, and his aura was more than 10 times stronger than before. So many brothers. Now I must avenge them. Gaming's face showed a cruel expression. "You just awakened and you're already thinking about revenge." My voice echoed from the stairway, and then I walked down step by step. This sense of oppression was far greater than 𝙎𝙚's. With each step closer, Gang felt his armor trembling, completely suppressed by the bloodline. "This is due to the special constitution of my body. What about you two?" "I can still fight." Gaming shook his body, regained his state, and with a stretch of his hand, a lightsaber immediately appeared in front of him. This is the uniqueness of their awakened armor. They do not use mimetic weapons, but instead summon lightsabers out of thin air. What a big mouth, just awakened and already so arrogant. I looked disdainfully at this new awakened one in front of me. I really don't know where he got the courage to oppose me right after awakening. Maybe it's because he just awakened and thinks he's invincible. The sudden increase in power can easily lead to this illusion. Prepare to be split in half by me. Jing roared and raised the lightsaber in his hand to slash at my head. I didn't have any extra defensive moves, not even bothering to summon the heaven-opening axe. Just lightly pointed at Jing's position, and 2 primordial auras shot skyward. In an instant, the 2 primordial auras tightly entangled Gang. "What is this thing? Let go of me!" Jing was entangled by the primordial energy. Feeling unwilling, he repeatedly slashed with a lightsaber in his hand, but after several consecutive strikes, it had no effect. Then, with a grasp out of thin air, the armor on Gowing's body cracked open. The confidence he had vanished instantly, realizing the man before him was not someone he could contend with, not even having the ability to fight back. Before he could think further, the energy around his waist grew stronger, binding him even tighter. Jing let out a scream, and soon his body completely shattered, then fell to the ground, convulsing. After Jing had no breath left, I finally let him go. His awakened armor talent seemed like a joke. Some brave students stood at the stairway watching this scene, each breaking out in a cold sweat, realizing I was more ruthless than they imagined. "Go back. If you cause trouble for me again, you'll end up the same way." I smiled slightly and said, but this smile looked very terrifying to the students, and they could only nod frequently. After dealing with this squad, I was just about to go back upstairs to rest when suddenly a terrifying roar sounded outside the hotel. I turned to look, and a mutated creature with a snake's body the size of a truck and a chicken's head emerged from the darkness. The creature's forked tongue kept flicking out from its beak, and its eyes were fixed on me, seemingly attracted by the fight that had just taken place here. What the monster didn't expect was that there would be a delicacy like me here. I frowned, and suddenly the heaven-opening axe appeared in my hand. Then, with a fierce stomp on the floor, my body vanished from the spot and appeared next to the chicken-headed monster. The next second, this chicken-headed monster had already reached the early stage of the 3rd tier, considered top-tier combat power in the early post-apocalyptic period. Now it sees me as if it had seen food for its stomach. Initially, it was quite smug, but after sensing my speed, it completely panicked. The chicken head full of lumps surged everywhere for my position. But before it could lock onto me, I was already in front of it. Without a word, I immediately activated my sky-opening ability, and the sharp axe slashed straight down at the chicken head. The chicken-headed monster reacted quickly, immediately turning its head to block with its hard beak. However, it couldn't even manage to block as my axe split its beak in half like cutting through bamboo. After absorbing the energy of the lizard monster, I gained a significant boost. Now I can break through to a 3rd tier awakener at any time. The chicken head was split open, blood gushing out, and soon the chicken-headed monster fell to the ground dead. Monroe, absorb this chicken-headed monster with your morphing battle spirit. Its attributes are quite decent. I put away the heaven-opening axe and gently said. Xianro nodded obediently, completely different from her fierce demeanor earlier. Like a girl next door, she obediently summoned the mimicry battle spirit. The 𝙎𝙚𝙬𝙧𝙧 came out full of excitement, rubbing against Xianro. The 𝙎𝙚𝙬𝙧 joyfully soared in the air until it saw the body of the chicken-headed monster. Realizing it was called out for a meal, the 𝙎𝙚𝙬𝙧 gratefully glanced at Xianro, then eagerly pounced on the chicken-headed monster. Its way of devouring was very cute. The classmates standing at the stairway were envious to the point of tears. They had eaten some lizard monster meat today and felt the enhancement from the monster meat, and they were eager to eat more. At this moment, in a conference room of a tall building, a middle-aged man in a suit slammed the table fiercely. "Who killed my precious son? This man is Hangyan's father, the chairman of 𝙎𝙚 Group, Wangyan." Faced with Hangyan's questioning, no one dared to answer. When they arrived at the school, they found Hangyan's body separated, the death extremely brutal. The meeting room was silent for quite a while before an elderly man with graying hair finally dared to speak. "Director, based on the wounds on 𝙎𝙚, it seems that the one who killed him was not a monster, but an awakened one." "Nonsense, I know," Wang Yan said impatiently. He had seen the wounds on Hangyan's body with his own eyes. There were no monster bite marks, only injuries caused by weapons. It was clear that his son had been deliberately murdered. "I'm afraid the person who killed the young master is an awakened. I just learned from my subordinate investigation that it seems an awakened named Cheng killed the young master. Right now, we can't afford to offend the awakened." The people around the conference table discussed Wang's death. Upon learning it was done by an awakened, they were all very apprehensive. In the past 2 days, they had witnessed the terror of the deformed monsters, let alone the awakened. "I don't care if he's an awakened one or a deformed monster. I only have this one child, Huang Tian, and I must avenge him." Wang Yan clenched his fists, teeth tightly gritted. He now hated Chenia deeply. "Boss, I've recruited several awakened ones here. As long as we know Chenny's location, I can have them surround and eliminate him." A man wearing a tall hat stepped forward and said that after the apocalypse broke out, several awakeners appeared in his family. "Just tell me what benefits you want." Huan also saw the thoughts of the executives in front of him. They are all businessmen. Without any benefit, no one will take action. They don't engage in losing deals. This is their consistent principle. 50% under 𝙎𝙚 Group. I want the land. The man extended his 5 fingers and spoke to Hong Yan. In the past, no one dared to discuss this matter with Hong Yan, but now it's different. His family has an awakener, giving him the qualification to negotiate. If it weren't for Hangyan having some forces under his command, he would have already called on the family's awakener to forcibly take over 𝙎𝙚 Group. "Liang, so you've been eyeing my family assets all along. I really trusted you." W inside and then continued speaking. Sigh. "But as long as you bring Chen Jie to me, 50% of 𝙎𝙚 Group's assets will be yours in order to avenge his son Huang." Hangyan is going all out. "Boss Hang, you are indeed straightforward. Wait for me. In 2 days, Chenny's head will be delivered." This man named Liang laughed loudly and walked out of the meeting room. As soon as he came out, he dialed a phone number. "Hey, old 8, you need to help me kill someone, and it's best to bring old 6 and the others along." On the other end of the phone, a boar monster covered in brown fur and sporting tusks was chasing prey, then nodded. "Rest assured, I'll bring you his head tomorrow. It's too easy to deal with someone in the apocalypse." In the end, Xianro followed my instructions and let the mimic spirit absorb the chicken head monster, which greatly enhanced her, allowing her to smoothly reach the peak of the 2nd tier. It's a pity that this chicken head monster didn't produce a spirit crystal, otherwise at least one of us could have advanced to the 3rd tier tonight. Returning to the 2nd floor, I changed rooms, took a hot shower, and washed away all the grime. 𝙎𝙗𝙚 said she was scared and insisted on sleeping with me. When I came out of the shower, I found 𝙎𝙗𝙚 already lying on my bed. 𝙎𝙗𝙚 was wearing a silk nightgown, very thin, revealing a pair of long fair legs as she lay on her side on the bed as a young man full of vigor. Seeing this scene made my whole body feel heated. "Are you going to sleep like that?" Without even covering yourself with a blanket, I looked at the upright 𝙎𝙗𝙚 and said, "Little G, can you help me cover up?" 𝙎𝙗𝙚 exhaled softly, reaching out to pull the blanket. I looked at 𝙎𝙗𝙚's graceful figure, embraced her, lifted the blanket, and then a series of indescribable events occurred. The time came to the next morning, and the originally quiet morning was disturbed by the urgent sound of tanks operating. With a bang, a shell hit the hotel's front door, shaking the entire building. What happened? It's not another monster attack, is it? Several armored vehicles have arrived outside. The students were woken up outside in the hallway, huddling in panic outside my room door. The battle inside last night was intense, and Ro and I didn't sleep well. Now, with the unusual situation, they didn't dare to wake me easily, but I had already sensed the situation outside. I was about to pull open the curtains to check, only to see an entire tank convoy outside, clearly coming for me. However, these modern weapons don't pose much of a threat to me as an awakened one. The key issue is the several super weapon awakened ones standing on the tanks. I didn't expect humans to unite so quickly. Perhaps only the Dragon Nation has such rallying power. People from the Dragon Nation have always been quite united, but unfortunately they chose the wrong target. 𝙎𝙗𝙚's legs were slightly trembling. She walked over to me and gently asked, "Is everything okay?" "It's nothing. You stay here. I'll handle it," I said, patting 𝙎𝙗𝙚's head. "She worked hard last night, so she doesn't need to fight today." As I reached out, the window glass shattered instantly, then transformed into a yellow light and flew out, standing in midair in front of several tanks. After the tanks spotted my figure, they quickly turned their cannons, aiming at me, floating in the air. "Are you here to find me?" I stood in the air, looking down at the people below with disdain. A middle-aged, strong man in black armor stepped out from the middle tank, his eyes glowing with a greenish-blue light, looking at me in the air with his hands behind his back. The middle-aged man's tone carried a murderous intent, clearly indicating hostility, but I didn't care. "I don't change my name when walking, nor by sir anyone sitting. That's me." My voice was loud, echoing across the entire sky. "All right. Very brave of you to admit it in front of so many of us." Upon hearing my response, the middle-aged man's gaze turned sinister. He is the awakened one from the family of the man with a tall hat in the Ḥangyan company. After receiving the message from the tall hat man, he gathered tanks stolen from the military and rushed over overnight. "Who are you?" "I am Lin Yao, the awakener from the Lin group. You killed Chairman Hang's Ḥangyan. I'm here today to take your life." After Laya finished speaking, he clenched his fists and a layer of cyan green armor covered his body. This was his awakened ability, the Azure Dragon Armor. He awakened when the apocalypse occurred, and with the help of his family, he reached the peak of the second tier in just one day. Coupled with the uniqueness of his awakening, his combat power now rivals that of an early third-tier awakener. "Ḥangyan, that fool was indeed killed by me." I looked directly at Liao and spoke bluntly. Whether the other party came to cause trouble under the orders of Ḥangyan, or if Ḥangyan himself came, I would confront them directly without any hesitation. In my previous life, I had endured enough. "All right, then you can surrender. I need to report back." Lino grinned, clenched his fist, and with a step transformed into a green light, rushing towards me at an extremely fast speed. Watching Lino charge at me, I remained calm, waiting for him to reach my side. Lino was slightly surprised at my composure, facing a top-tier awakened like him, yet still able to maintain such a calm demeanor. Strength. He is confident he can kill me within 1 minute. In just a few seconds, Lino quickly rushed from the tank's position to in front of me, then charged a punch directly at my abdomen, and I did not summon a mimic weapon, just lightly reached out to grab Lino's fist. I want to compare the difference between my talent and a super weapon awakener. With a loud boom, the energy from our clashing hands shook the entire space. Linoya's fist was firmly grasped in my palm, and he looked at me with shock and defiance. He was a second-tier peak super weapon awakener, yet his fully powered punch was caught so effortlessly. Lino gritted, using all his strength to break free from my hand, but unfortunately, after half a minute of struggling, he couldn't move at all. Aren't you a super weapon awakener? Is this all the strength you have?" I looked at the flustered Line with a half-smile. As expected, my Pangu physique is formidable, able to completely overpower these ordinary super weapon awakeners with just physical strength. Line was so angry he could hardly speak, and with a bunch of underlings watching him, being handled like this by me, how could he maintain his dignity? In a fit of anger, Lino extended his left hand and had no choice but to summon his super weapon. In the past, he rarely needed to use super weapons to deal with mutant beasts, as his extraordinarily strong physique alone could crush them to death. I was the first to force him to actively use a weapon, like the super weapon awakeners from last night's team. Linya's weapon was also a lightsaber, but his lightsaber was much more formidable than that of the awakener from last night. A small azure dragon circled around their lightsaber, faintly emitting a dragon's roar. With a swish, Linya swung horizontally at my neck, the sharpness of the long sword making it unavoidable. Facing his fierce attack, I merely twisted slightly and dodged the strike at an extremely fast speed. But as I dodged, the force in my hand involuntarily increased, twisting Lino's right hand. Instantly, Lino's right hand was twisted over 90 degrees. The intense pain contorted the muscles on Lino's face. Lino screamed in agony, the sound more harrowing than a pig being slaughtered in the village. Feeling some discomfort in my eardrums, I finally let go. "You're too weak." I shook my head lightly, and my words were like a sharp knife, deeply piercing into Lino's heart, almost driving him mad. Since awakening yesterday, due to his immense power, his entire family revered him greatly. But now he was being trampled under my feet, and this disparity was more unbearable than death for him. "You're finished!" Regaining his freedom, Lino roared fiercely. He pointed the lightsaber towards the sky, and the sword gathered immense energy. The small green dragon originally on the lightsaber soared into the sky, suddenly expanding from a few inches to thousands of inches. It was a giant green dragon spiraling in the air, its eyes filled with majesty as it stared at me. "This is Boss Lin's ultimate move, 𝙎𝙚𝙧𝙧𝙧. Just yesterday, this move killed a third-tier mutant monster. You're doomed." Lia's underlings saw him use this move, and each of them thought the outcome was decided. Indeed, this move was one of the more formidable ones I've seen since my awakening, but it's still far from enough to deal with me. I then waved my hand, summoning the mimicry battle spirit. Suddenly, a large amount of primordial green mist emerged from my body. This time, I don't plan to use the heaven opening axe to fight. As soon as the primordial green turbid energy appeared, with a thought, it immediately transformed into a dragon, just like the one Lino summoned. However, the dragon formed from the primordial green turbid energy was golden in color, and its aura far surpassed Lino's green dragon. "You're imitating my moves. You, a mere imitation, dare to compete with my genuine skills? Truly overestimating yourself." Linear confidently held up the lightsaber, thinking his was the strongest. To find out whose is the imitation, why not test his power? The primordial chaos energy can transform into various creatures between heaven and earth. Without Linuo using his talent, I can still transform into a giant dragon. "So, how is it imitation?" Lino glared angrily in my direction and suddenly swung his long sword down. The green dragon roared, its mighty body coiling and pouncing towards me, stirring the surrounding air and even causing lightning and thunder in the sky. I merely pointed lightly, and the golden dragon on me moved as well. The golden dragon emitted a dazzling golden light, showing no fear, and charged straight at the opposing green dragon. The green dragon sensed the threat from the golden dragon and changed direction to collide with it. With a thunderous rod, the two giant dragons entwined, continuously clashing madly, and the entire sky echoed with the sounds of their battle. The fight lasted for 3 minutes, and finally, Lino's green dragon, due to exhaustion, slowly dissipated, reverting to a small green dragon weakly continuing to coil around Lino's lightsaber. "Useless thing. You lost just like that. What's the point of you following me?" The defeat of the mimetic battle spirit made Lino feel embarrassed, and he immediately started scolding it. Actually, the defeat of the Azure Dragon is normal. My innate, Hongming Ching Qi, is a thing of heaven and earth capable of continuously absorbing the energy of heaven and earth to fight. In such a prolonged battle, it is invincible among those of the same level. Now, who do you think has the counterfeit goods? I watched Lino in front of me with great interest. At this moment, Lino's expression was as if he had swallowed a fly. "What are you bastards waiting for? Hurry up and blast him to death." Helena angrily looked at the tank squad behind him. After his defeat, he was embarrassed and furious, taking it out on the tank squad. Those underlings hurriedly aimed their cannons at me, and with a boom, shells glowing yellow were fired at me. "Do they really think these toys can deal with me?" I smiled slightly, and with just a wave of my hand, the golden dragon swept through, devouring all the shells. These scraps of metal couldn't harm me in the slightest. Against an awakened one like me, ordinary firearms are completely ineffective. After clearing the first wave of shells, I immediately summoned a mimic weapon, holding the heaven opening axe. With the movement of my body, the next second I was at the edge of the tank formation, fiercely throwing the heaven opening axe. The axe spun rapidly in the air, breaking through one tank after another. These tanks exploded on the ground one by one like firecrackers. Idiot. This is my Lin family's armored convoy. Lia watched the tanks explode one after another, feeling a pang of pain, and picked up his lightsaber to charge at me again, determined to fight. However, after his mimicry battle spirit was damaged, his combat power was greatly reduced. He wasn't a match before, and now even less so. He swung his sword, but before the blade could touch me, I easily flicked it away with 2 fingers. Then I reached out and grabbed Lia's head, and he immediately felt a surge of power from above, sensing that he might die in the next second. Spare me. Spare me. At this moment, Loa no longer cared about saving face, and hurriedly knelt down to beg me for mercy. Weren't you just acting like it was a fight to the death with me? Why are you backing down now? I looked at Lino playfully. There is an old saying in the Dragon Kingdom. A wise man submits his circumstances. Master Chen, you are magnanimous. Please spare me this time, and I will follow your lead in the future. Lino placed his hands together, repeatedly, begging me for mercy, fearing that the force in my hands might increase. I cannot trust the loyalty of someone who wants to kill me. Line hurriedly reached into his chest and dug out a greenish-blue heart. This is the core of my awakened warrior. It's connected to me. If you crush it when you're unhappy, I will die immediately. Brother Chen, I just want to help you build your power and contribute my strength. Liao offered up the core, his eyes fixed on my face. I glanced at the green pulsating core in Lino's hand and recalled that in the previous life warriors indeed had such a thing. This core was the life of a super martial awakener. After some thought, I accepted the core. All right, I'll give you a chance, but if you do anything to displease me, watch out for your life. Lia's combat ability is decent, so taking him in as reliable combat power is feasible. He can handle minor enemies we encounter on the road in the future. Brother Chen, thank you, Brother Chen. Brother Chen, there are other awakened ones from our family coming. You should be prepared. After being accepted, Line was overjoyed and quickly reported the news to show his loyalty. Let them come. I can collect a few more Cs. I was indifferent. Yes, these awakened ones coming to find me were gifts delivered right to my door. Boss Chen, my family has one person who before the apocalypse, a distinct bug, and awakened a strange talent that can emit a large amount of hallucinogenic gas. There is also another who ate a toad and after awakening can produce a loud noise, which is also not to be underestimated. Lino behind me reported the talents of the 2 awakened ones who came later. After listening, I was somewhat surprised. The 2 who came later awakened after eating something and were not super martial awakeners. However, dealing with such awakened ones can be a bit troublesome. Although their attack and defense abilities may not be as strong as super martial awakeners, their talents can be quite vexing. Some insidious talents can easily catch you off guard if you're not careful. I understand. You may leave now. Gather your team and those still alive will continue to follow you. I waved my hand and flew towards the hotel while nodded and bowed, seeing me off. As soon as I returned to the inn, Xiao Enro pulled me up to check on me. Are you okay? I saw the battle was so intense just now. Are you not injured? Xiao Enro looked at my body with a face full of concern. She had just seen 2 giant dragons collide, and even though I won, she was very worried about whether I was hurt. You know how strong your husband is, I said with a mischievous smile at Xiaowan. Hearing my words, Xiaowan seemed to suddenly remember something, and a blush appeared on her face. I hate it. I really should have let Linga stab you to death just now.